Now, we all know that Nicola Sturgeon is Scotland's first female First Minister. But some of the older members of the audience might remember a time before Nicola was at the helm. She wasn't always First Minister. Once upon a time, Scotland had another First Minister. Some of the front row have guessed who I might be talking about. Okay, there have been a few, so I'm going to give you some clues. This one will never take a seat in the House of Lords. This one has just announced that he's giving away his pension for charity. He is Scotland's longest-serving First Minister with a track record of standing up for this country. He's the man who led us to the brink of independence. He is the one and only Alex Salmond.
Well, now, friends, I was told backstage, be careful, Alec. This is the liveliest crowd since Still Game. You know, friends, just over 50 years ago, when I was a babe in arms, the Scottish National Party met for an annual conference in Bridge of Allen with 36 delegates. A bit like the Liberal Democrats today. Now we meet in this arena 12,000 strong. So the first thing to do today is to look around and feel our strength as a movement and as a party. You know, in ancient times, the city of Sparta was famous for having no city walls. It didn't need walls because the people were the walls of Sparta. They were the people who were charged with defending the future of the nation. Today, friends, you are the walls of Scotland. And we are gathered today in the greatest ever political conference in these islands. The last time I was in the Hydro Arena, in the space of about 20 minutes and two successive flights, first Josh Naylor and then Charlie Flynn won gold medals for Scotland in the boxing and the Commonwealth Games. And that was an extraordinary evening as Flower of Scotland boomed out twice in successive anthems. But extraordinary though that wasn't my favourite moments of the Commonwealth Games. I had two favourite moments in these memorable Glasgow Games. The first was the singing of Freedom Camogie by Pumeza at the opening ceremony at Celtic Park. And the second was another young boxer, another medal winner, the flyweight Rhys McFadden. Now let me explain both. I see somebody from Paisley's come in tonight. I'll tell you why these were my highlights. Firstly, in terms of Freedom Camogie. So Camogie at hame with freedom. Ne'er mind what the hoodies croak for doom. There's a great wind, a rough wind, blowing through the great glen of the world today. Hamish Henderson's wonderful international anthem, setting out hopes as a movement in an international context. A young South African journalist told me he watched it in Johannesburg and said the rendition of Freedom Camogie was the most moving thing he'd ever seen on television. Friends, I actually think that Freedom Camogie should be our national anthem because it expresses the true radical spirit of Scotland and places it in an international context. But the second highlight, the young Rhys McFadden. Rhys was fighting his first bout at the SECC against the #1 in the world, a Welsh lad, favourite for the gold medal. He wasn't given a slightest chance, but by grit and determination, by self-belief, he won the bout. And he won the bout because every time he got trapped against the ropes, he came off like a wee torpedo. And I think there is an analogy for the Yes campaign and for the Yes movement in the performance of young Rhys McFadden at the Commonwealth Games. Because our political opponents, the Better Together coalition, Labour, Tory, Labour, they thought they had us against the ropes. But haven't we come out like torpedoes since the referendum? You know, friends, when I, as virtually my last act as leader of the Scottish National Party, set my successor, Nicola Sturgeon, what I thought was an amazing target of 100,000 members, she didn't tell me we'd be past 90,000 in a single week, ladies and gentlemen. But achieving that target is one of the things we've got to do to sustain the push for our country's freedom. There is another thing we have to do. In the referendum campaign, there were 33 newspaper titles in this country. One of them was in favour of independence. 2 of them were neutral, and 30 were against. I think, friends, we have the opportunity, and shortly you'll hear from Richard Walker, who's going to tell us about the launch of an independence-supporting daily newspaper next week. So we, all of us, should make a pledge today not just to take out a subscription ourselves, but to make sure we take out a subscription for a friend as well. Let's make sure that Independence Daily is a great success, and let's redress the balance of the old with a new title in Scotland. And there's a third thing we've got to do. It's a small thing. In about 6 months' time, we've got to win the general election in Scotland for Scotland. In their panic, in the last desperate days of the referendum campaign, we were promised home rule. Scotland was promised near federalism. It's our task as a party to make sure that it is delivered, that the vow is redeemed, that Scotland gets what we were promised just 2 months ago. And that means financial powers, so as we can run the Scottish economy and make a dent in the inequality that scars our nation. That means we have to have representation in Europe, because the crunch is coming under Tory UKIP influence that could drag Scotland out of Europe. We have to have our own position in the world. And thinking about our position in the world and how we see the world and the world sees Scotland, isn't it vitally important that we have a true public service broadcaster in this nation? Now, friends, I was delayed backstage because Eddie Reader was trying to tempt me into a duet before the end of proceedings. But you want this day to end in a high, ladies and gentlemen. We've got in Nicola Sturgeon the most brilliant young woman in Scottish politics. We have in our new ministerial team the most capable group of politicians in Scotland in Scottish politics. But if Nicola is to achieve her ambition and our ambition, then what is going to matter is what we all do between now and the general election, between now and the Scottish elections, between now and the local elections of 2017. These are going to be the tests for the nation. I think we've got the mobilisation, we've got the morale, we've got the intent to succeed. So let's back Nicola and take this nation forward. Thank you very much.
Nicholson. Alex Salmond, ladies and gentlemen.